And then another word that's contested, struggle, right? Because, you know, that's always like, I remember when I was 19 years old, like that was always a thing. I'd be like, man, it was a running joke. We do this for the struggle. This for the struggle, right? That was everything, right? You know, man, you buy them chips, that's for the struggle. Right? That was always, man, we out here on the struggle, family, right? But this thing around thinking about struggle in a very different way, right? Struggle actually is purposeful, right? You are struggling towards something, right? Not struggling with people, right? You are in a struggle towards something, right? So if we think about this in spaces in Latin America, if we think about the Zapatistas, Subcomandante always says the struggle is towards a liberation, right? And that liberation is often tattered and contested and ugly, right? But at minimum is ours, right? So it's not necessarily these clean spaces, right? And struggle beyond is rhetorical, but to the issues that question our purpose and humanity, right? So let's be very real about this, right? Our communities do not need to be saved or helped, right? People are very clear about the things that oppress them. People are very clear about the terms and conditions that will move them towards something, right? That help, every time I hear the words help, it's temporary, right? I'm thinking about what does it mean to move towards solidarity, right? How are we seeing each other, right? So in the Rasa Studies program in Tucson, Arizona, they would begin their classes and saying, you are my other me, right? Hence the mirror. So now how do we move in that way, right? And then more importantly, what will we do in support of those communities who have determined the justice condition, right? That means that the role of the researcher gets questioned. Now, this is, I'll just give you all this quick piece, because this is something I need to check if I didn't, yep, okay. This thing becomes, when we talk about troubling, I think when we look at a place like a high school and all the contestations that happens in a high school. So my high school was actually created by a community struggle. Now, there was one point where one of our principals left. We got an interim principal. Interim principal was really good, but she had to leave because she did us a favor by coming out of retirement to actually get the school stabilized. When we had to actually elect another principal, now, Sojo is about 80% Latino, about 20% black. There were a group of hunger strikers on our local school council who were also deciding with us on the local school council about who would be the next principal. And there was a black woman and a Latina. And the hunger strikers wanted the Latina. And they said something that I can still hear them saying. They said, she knows us. She knows how to talk to us. She treats us as human. Now, understanding me knowing her history, she was also going to be there to close the school. So think about communicating that to someone who has just told you that this person has given you the closest thing to love from an administrator that they've seen in some time. Right? And the contestation there, right? So this thing around, I'm thinking about myself, locating myself as the researcher saying, look, y'all, she's going to close this place. We will not exist, right? In fact, she's actually given us a window to how she's going to close the place, because when you all asked her about her plan, she had none. Now, the black woman who came had a plan. She had a history with Latino families. But at the same time, those families said, she knows where we're from. She knows how to address us. And that vote was 5-4, right? To go with the black woman. and there's still bitterness about that, right? And there were a group of us on the council who were situated around, what does it mean we have to keep the school open? Because if we don't, if she comes in, we're closed in 12 months, right? So this thing around thinking about what is our relationship there, because now I no longer occupy the space of researcher. I'm the volunteer social studies teacher. I wrote part of the proposal that promised that we would be there, right? But now, in some instances, it would appear as if I violated the terms of the community. So now thinking about that in real time, right? So these types of things. So again, that question of your humanity is not something to joke with, right? Because these are people who are trying to guarantee unmitigated space where their babies can actually think and create, because that's what's being destroyed in public schools at this moment. The ability of young people to think and create, right? And now, where do we sit in attentions, right? Because in addition to this, right, and I remember the principal hiring process, and then a year after we hired the principal, they fired her 2 days before the first day of school. But to the love of the community, those same hunger strikers came right back and said, bring her back. And they brought that woman that they voted against back to the school to teach their babies. Right? So this thing around thinking about this in real time and the ways in which struggle is often conflicted, right? So this radical imaginary, right, or what Sean Ginwright and James Baldwin and Margaret Walker and Zora Neale Hurston, Toni Morrison always challenge us to do is, what is the imagining, right? And in that radical imaginary, remember, radical, if we got any botanists in here, radical just means a growth from the root. Right? A radical growth is a growth from the root, right? So if we think about this radical imaginary, how we ground our work, where does it grow to, and then how are we responsible to our own self-care? Because I will say this publicly, if we do not commit to self-care, engaging in this way will kill you, right? So now the importance of paying attention to this, right? In a space of healing, right? And healing, and one of my trainers as a youth worker, a guy named G2 Brown, says, as Black people, we have not had collective time to heal. So a commitment to collectively heal allows you to do a couple of things. It allows you to understand parallel struggles. It allows you to ask deeper questions of yourself. And it allows for you to identify a community of people who will not only hold you accountable, but lift you when you are dying. Because some of these days you feel like you are dying.